Hi, my name is Jessica Johnston. I work at St. Scholastica as an academic advisor and our Veterans Resource Center coordinator. Today I get to talk to you about academic advising and student veterans and share some of the lessons I've learned in this work. So let's get started. First, for the purpose of this presentation, when I use the term veteran, I'm describing someone who falls into one of these categories. Someone who has served on active duty and is now separated from military service. Someone who serves in the reserves, has regular trainings, and can be called into service at any point by the federal government. Someone who serves in the National Guard, has regular training similar to the reservists, and can be called into duty at any point by the state government. Those who are active duty full-time, and lastly, those who have had an entire military career of 20 plus years are retired from military service. This is the W curve, and we use the W curve when talking about undergrad traditional students transition to St. Scholastica. It can also be used when talking about student veterans transition to St. Scholastica. Regardless of which descriptor on the previous slide they fall into, we can guarantee there are going to be some ups and downs as they find their place here. Not surprising, the student veteran has a different curve than the traditional undergraduate student. The honeymoon phase doesn't last as long. Culture shock comes in pretty quickly. So as an academic advisor, I recommend that you have your first meeting with new advisees within the first 4 weeks to catch that culture shock and to help them get to initial adjustment. We have a veteran student orientation that hopefully will give them some resources they can refer to when they hit culture shock. But as an advisor, you have an important role in building that relationship, and any time you can help them move towards getting their feet underneath them here at CSS, you'll be building positive rapport with the student. We can expect a student to hit another low at some point. Now, for undergrad traditional students, it's usually second semester, can be sooner. In my student veterans, I see it much sooner. I see it once they've got their feet underneath them, they're maybe maintaining good grades. They start to question what they're doing and whether or not being in higher ed for them right now makes sense. And I encourage all of my student veterans to be in our mentoring program as a part of getting them out of that isolation of questioning and start searching for some solutions or getting some feedback on the ideas that they're questioning. Veterans are prone to isolation, and so as an advisor, ask some questions in an academic advising period that gets to how they're feeling connected or not feeling connected to their academic plan or the community here at St. Scholastica, because student veterans tend to hit isolation around academic advising period. And hopefully with your help and our Veterans Resource Center, we can get them to purpose and belonging here at St. Scholastica. Here are some strategies to help in that process. First, open the floor to discussion and disclosure. Ask the student if they've served in the military. You're not going to know this unless you ask, so ask the question to all of your students. And express interest in their prior experiences and accomplishments. Every service member is trained in a specific job. Ask about it. They'll share what they feel comfortable sharing. But in this process, avoid 20 question style interactions. And this is several close-ended questions in a row that don't give students a chance to maybe filter what they feel like sharing. And it gives the impression that you're trying to gather facts rather than listening to their story and getting to know them as a person. Listen, don't assume, and be careful about sharing your own experiences with the military, especially in those first couple of meetings. It can be seen as though you assume you know their story without listening to their story. Create an open and welcoming atmosphere for student veterans. On this slide, I have a diagram. On the chair closest to the door, there's a blue star. I recommend having a place in your office similar to this chair, somewhere close to the door that a student could exit if they feel triggered, or if just simply having a chair near the door will help them feel comfortable in your space. Also, consider having something in your office that indicates from a visual perspective that you are going to be open to talking about military experience. Whether that be a little flag or one of our Veterans Day signs, it'll go far in showing that you're interested in the military service, even without asking a question. When you are asked questions about degree plans and majors, answer questions directly. You're going to be seen as the expert. The military stresses positions and even more than people in the positions people are holding. And so whether or not you feel like an expert, you're going to be seen as an expert. And to that note, be conscientious of the language you use. Here are a couple notes on this slide. Think about when you talk about service or to a veteran. And also on this slide is a visual that many of my students come back to as how they felt when they were in culture shock. This is a helpful visual to have in your advising space, or can be helpful for you to think about when you're talking to a student in their first few weeks here at St. Scholastica. Encourage involvement in St. Scholastica, whether that be in the veteran community or in another community, or maybe it's their class community. We don't want them to be questioning or in isolation alone, and part of figuring out they aren't alone is being in community. And also when you're in culture shock, being in a community can help you feel like you belong here. Encourage use of campus resources. In this course, I also have a list of resources at CSS. Give that to your students. It might help to start out with which of these resources do you think would be most helpful for you, and assign them to maybe have an informational meeting with a counselor or someone from the Center for Equal Access of, do your needs or your experiences match with maybe some of their resources. Don't try to diagnose, even if you can diagnose an outside community. The academic advising role is not about diagnosing. It's about helping them find their career path, their academic path, and their community path at St. Scholastica. To that note, your perception of students' emotional intensity does not always match their experience of their emotions. I've had experiences where a student comes in with lots of close-answered questions towards me, and I perceive it as they're very intense. When in actuality, it might just be how they're gathering information or how they go about their day, and might not have any indication whatsoever about what they're feeling. So keep that in mind when working with student veterans. Career planning as mission planning. Students are going to be looking to you to help with that career piece. They're coming to St. Scholastica for their next path in their career. We know academic advising and the academics is so much more than that, but as an advisor, they're going to be coming to you for career and course advice. So start with that and build some rapport and move to those other bigger questions that come with advising as you build that relationship. Every military member is part of a specific group and has a specific job. Ask about it. Ask about what they liked, what they didn't like. And communicate about careers and majors with concrete details. They're used to no fluff communication. Show them the facts. And decisions may be difficult, especially in the beginning. So maybe multiple appointments your first time doing academic advising might be helpful. Giving little assignments, coming back and talking about a couple options as opposed to, here are a lot of options, and what do you think? Encourage internships and volunteering and whatever you can to help them see how their current courses can fit into that long-term path. They're going to need a vision for, why am I sitting here at St. Scholastica doing XYZ major? And to that point, degree planning is the second part of finding their path. Encourage the students to submit their military transcript. Lots of credits can be found on there, even with basic training, and the student might end up needing a little bit of a credit cushion if they withdraw from a class. Early problem solving is a must, especially for those who are still serving, whether it be drills or deployments. Ask questions about what they know about upcoming deployments or upcoming appointments with the VA, for example. And students are protected from punishment to their grades for military service, whether that be drill or deployments. And if you have any students who are running into issues with that, please let me know, and I'm happy to be a resource in figuring out and troubleshooting any situations. Most military benefits have specific requirements, and when a student is looking for their courses and their course plan and ultimately then their career plan, they're going to be thinking about, what do I need to have to get my benefits, and what do I need to have to maximize my benefits? So Provide direct, clear, concise, and straightforward direction regarding career and course plans. So here's an example of a sample degree plan. And this is an example of something I have to submit for those using tuition assistance, for example. Something that has the start and middle and end and can help a student really visualize their path from the current point to down the road when they have their career. Education benefits interact with academic advising again and again and again. Many of our veterans have complex education benefits and have complex requirements above and beyond the traditional federal and state requirements. It's the student's responsibility to know their benefit details. I work with them heavily on that and refer out to some of our great resources in the area. But as an advisor, it's helpful for you to know that the military looks at education in weeks, and they look at it as training weeks, and they look at it whether or not it's online or residential. And those are questions that you might want to ask, right? What is full-time for your benefit? Doesn't matter if they're online classes. They might not know the answer, but this will spark them then to look for the answer. Changes to schedules after 10-day or within the withdrawal period, please refer the student to work with George Biotti or myself to at least consider what their VA benefits might do if they drop or withdraw from that class. Here's some additional resources on education benefits if you're interested, and also on resources for building military culture and military student success. Lastly, there's my contact information. I'm happy to consult on student-specific cases or on student programming or anything related to our military student success here at St. Scholastica. Thank you for listening and have a great day.